Ginni Thomas has now testified before the January 6th committee, and reports of what exactly went down are starting to come out, and we need to talk about it because Ginni Thomas is not only a certified cuckoo bird who believes every conspiracy theory she comes across on Facebook or Telegram or whatever, she is also, of course, as pictured there, the wife to a Supreme Court justice. And the fact that she spent the time between the 2020 election and January 6th communicating with state legislators, with people in the orbit of Donald Trump, that is very worrying. And so while we didn't get to see the testimony and the public hearings have been delayed by Hurricane Ian, we did get a few details of what they talked about. So first of all, here is why they thought it was important to bring her in. She came into focus for the committee after they obtained email correspondence between her and John Eastman, a Trump attorney and other crazy person, who championed an effort to pressure Mike Pence to block the certification of electors on January 6th. She also sent emails to 2 Wisconsin Republican legislators days after the election, pushing them to name an alternate slate of electors, which is very much not a thing. She also corresponded via text messages with Mark Meadows in the days following the 2020 election, urging him to set fire to democracy and just declare Trump the winner. So what happened when she went in yesterday? Well, she told the panel that she had not discussed any of the legal challenges to the 2020 election with her husband, Judge Clarence Thomas. Thomas had delivered an opening statement in which she said that she had never spoken to Clarence about pending cases before the Supreme Court, calling it an ironclad rule in our home. And this is where it gets really funny. She says that her husband is, quote, uninterested in politics. I generally do not discuss with him day-to-day work in politics, the topics I am working on, who I am calling, emailing, texting, or meeting. I know he was completely unaware of my text with Mark Meadows until this committee leaked him to the press while he was in a hospital bed fighting an infection. I love that they make the fact that her awful behaviors became public, that now we're supposed to feel bad about that because he happened to be sick at that point. Okay, don't do terrible things when your husband's in ill health if you think that might exacerbate his condition or whatever.
I also love, by the way, by his bedside when he's sick, instead of trying to overturn the election.
Exactly. One other thing though, before we discuss, I love that she presented that last thing as, you need not worry, we wouldn't sully our marriage with these talks. That would be a conflict of interest. And so there is an iron wall between my doings and Clarence Thomas. When I think a more plausible argument is he got real sick of hearing about her wackadoodle conspiracy theories. And he's like, don't talk to me about it. I don't wanna know, no text messages. Stop sending me memes. Don't link me to stuff that Dinesh D'Souza put out. I'm not interested. That seems more plausible to me.
Or he's just not interested in pretty much anything. I mean, from the man that didn't utter 2 words during any argument before the Supreme Court for like 17 years before he asked one question. I just think the guy's a dud in general.
I definitely think so. He's like the ancient turtle in a never-ending story. He would prefer to stay asleep, and if you do have to bother him, please leave soon. Also, you might lose your horse. Anyway, that's I don't buy anything that she just said there. She did, however, during her testimony, maintain that the election was stolen. She still believes this, as millions of people believe. The election was a year and a half ago. They have found absolutely no evidence the election was stolen. It's just, you can't get through to these people. We should be able to have higher standards for someone potentially influencing a Supreme Court justice than we would have for any random person replying to one of our tweets. But in this case, unfortunately, we cannot. This is who she is, Ben.
At least if there's a Supreme Court justice to not have very high standards for, Clarence Thomas is high on the list there. At least she is influencing somebody who doesn't have very high standards of his own. I'd like to remind everybody of his insane paper that he released, his opinion when Roe v. Wade was overturned. And he was the one justice that said, let's go further. We should now be considering stopping people's right to contraception and people's right to gay marriage. Very interesting, of course, that he stopped just shy of also reconsidering interracial marriage in this country. Oh, because that's the one that he benefits from. It's amazing how corrupt people can be right up until the point of their own personal lives. And then oops, which of course the same applies to all of these Republicans who are against abortion, except their own abortions.
Exactly. Yeah, they'll do narrow carve outs for rights for themselves, which is another reason why I think we need a lot of diversity in the judiciary. And I mean, even for Republicans, because if we can get enough different types of Republicans with enough narrowly defined self-interest, then that might be a proxy for them actually caring about the American people.
Yes, this is exactly right. I did a whole Rebel HQ video this week quoting several stories of people that are pro-life advocates and protesters at abortion clinics who then went into those same clinics to get abortions. And when the doctor went up and said, "Is your mind changed now that your daughter's getting one today?" They said, "You don't know the circumstances around my daughter," and then returned to the picket lines the next day.
Oh my God.
When it's my daughter, it's okay. You don't understand what she's going through. But let's tell other people they're murderers the very next day. Your daughter's a murderer according to your thought process, lady.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.